Gracias, Tim, gracias, Ignacio, por esta primera sesión del día. Ahora vamos a darle la bienvenida a Helen Child, que ella es fundadora y CEO de Open Banking Excellence, que es la comunidad de Open Banking más grande del mundo, protagonista de todo el desarrollo e implementación del Open Banking por la banca abierta en Reino Unido, que fue el mercado pionero, la región pionera en todo lo que tiene que ver con Open Banking, y nos trae nada más ni nada menos que una conversación, una presentación sobre cuáles fueron los aprendizajes después de todos estos años de Open Banking en el Reino Unido. Así que, Helen, welcome, bienvenida. It's a pleasure to have you today. Es un placer tenerte hoy aquí con nosotros. Te escuchamos con atención.
Hola, buenos días. Gracias por invitarme. Pioneros Open Banking Argentina. Thank you very, very much for inviting me to talk with you today. I am delighted to be joining you at your Argentina FIntech Forum 2023. And I hope to be joining you next year in person. And everybody at OBE would be delighted to support the banking journey. Now, I grew up reading books about riding in Argentina, and as a keen equestrian, it's a place that is still on my bucket list. Now, I know that you've a few open banking fences to jump, and we would love to be with you on your ride. So just want to talk to you about the shape of our time together today. Now, I'll be sharing some lessons learned from our research, the Global Open Finance Index, to help you inform your next steps. Now, as you know, the UK is currently regarded as a leader in open banking globally, and we laid out the blueprint for open banking, which is recognised as the model approach and is replicated across the world. Now, with launching open banking in 2018, UK fintechs have had 5 years to build their tech systems and their processes and their skills, and to work at scale, processing transaction data and managing customer data safely, and learning how importantly to integrate with the incumbent suppliers. Now, all of this means that we've got all these capabilities and the success. So as a consequence, we're able to support you and de-risk the process of doing so again. So we've a wealth of knowledge to share with you. And as you can see at the bottom of that slide, that's a graphic we took from the Global Open Finance Index, the index as we refer to it. And you can see the results of Argentina, unsurprisingly, in blue. Now, my mission today is to inform and inspire you. We've selected use cases from around lending, and we've included some of our community in this conversation. And we hope that this will support you in your journey to help improve your society, your economy, and your environment. Now, at OBE, we believe that when you get good people together, amazing things will happen. So I've, as I said before, invited a few of our community, Team UK, to help us on this mission to inform and inspire you. And at the end of our time together, I've a mission for you as well. So come on, let's get going. And we'll move on to the next slide. First of all, just a few moments on who is Open Banking Excellence and what do we do? Well, we are the largest and the most engaged community now in the world. And I think it's the latter that's important. It's the most engaged. We are the global centre of excellence, driving change in open finance. And how do we do that? Well, first and foremost, we create exceptional platforms and content that promote new thinking and partnerships and ways of working in financial services. At OBE, it's a place where collaboration, and that's an absolute key word in our sector, hence me bringing along Team UK to meet you today. And it's all about creating an environment, a safe place where people can have that exceptional thought leadership that catalyzes the adoption for open banking, open finance, and open data, and even beyond. And how do we do that? Well, first and foremost, we do that by showcasing the work of pioneers on all of our platforms, and an advocate even for the community, driving forward that change. And we do that by creating connections, people that need to know each other to make their dream, their vision, their strategy come alive, make it absolutely happen. And of course, we advocate for UK PLC, which is here today. We were introduced by the organizer of this event by our embassy in Buenos Aires. So here we can showcase the very, very best of UK FinTech and UK open banking. Okay, if we move on to the next slide, we can actually have a look now at the Open Finance Index. And this was a groundbreaking piece of research we carried out in collaboration, there's that word again, with the UK's Government Department of Trade and Business, and the World Bank, Accenture, NatWest, and the Oxford University. So they were really supporting us and behind all of the research. Now, one of the key findings, and we'll talk about this in more depth, but it's hugely relevant, is that mandated standards are the most impactful factor for driving forward customer adoption. Now, we carried out this research at the request of regulators and policies, or policymakers even, and CEOs globally. So this is the first ever data-driven research that shows the progress of open finance globally. Now, we published this in 2023, and this was at the beginning of this year, and it has already been in the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg more times than I can remember. In fact, over 1,000 publications around the world, and it is recognized as the industry benchmark. And I would encourage you to go to our website and download it, read it at your leisure, and there's also some really cool infographics you need to download as well, and we're going to be taking a look at those together later. So if we move on, I just want to spend a little time with you talking about our findings, and just to give you a flavour and to talk to you about the methodology, because that's absolutely key, because that underwrites the robustness. Our findings were based on both the qualitative and the quantitative research, and these elements, they come together to reinforce each other. Now, I'm not going to get all data sciencey with you here, but I would like just to talk a little bit about the methodology. And this was a huge, heavy lifting piece of work. And it was designed by some of the world's best data scientists. So as I was saying before, it's rigorous and it's very robust. And it was based on a survey with over 350 respondents. And the index, we made use of 150 data points in each one of the countries. And what actually happened is that the UK's Department of Business and Trade, they introduced us to our embassies and consulates around the world, and they very generously opened up their doors to Oxford University, and they introduced us to all of the thought leaders and the leading tech companies and banks in country. And from there, we did a lot of the research questions, and from there, the World Bank and the IMF sourced much of the data. So we gathered all of this data and worked with, well, there's 150 data points in each country, which is absolutely incredible. Now, I've talked about the interviews and the support we had from Oxford University doing that, and all the secondary data. And behind every piece of research needs to be modelling to sense check it, to make sure that it passes that human test. And we did a lot of analysis around that as well. So my key message here is this data was done by some of the best data modelling and data research scientists, and it is now regarded as the industry benchmark. So if we move on to the next slide, now it gets exciting. We formed 6 pillars, yeah? And the early analysis prompted us to cluster the data points and describe them into pillars or market perspectives. And it's the interplay here between the categories that is vitally important. The entrepreneurial category, which is our first, clearly close to my heart, and maybe many of you in the audience as well. Now, this was designed, as you can read from the slides, to really describe the attractiveness of the market to new entrants. Markets that scored very highly in this category are seen as rapidly growing, and there's a rapid access to capital and talent, and also fundraising as well. Now, the customer, it's never going to happen unless you have the right environment for a customer category. So this category and the scores here describe the current and likely future adoption of open banking by looking at both existing and future adoption. So what is forecast to happen? Markets that scored highly in this category had good early foundations of growth and sound indicators for future adoption. Now, the regulation, and I said it was the interplay between each one of these categories that was important, and more so in this pillar, from this perspective. The regulatory category measures the factors such as the state of open banking regulation, the existing and the nature of unified standards of open banking data, supporting regulations in areas such as digital identity and other linked factors. Now, markets that scored high in this sector have regulatory environments that were highly conducive to the development of a thriving open banking ecosystem. And we're going to look at this in a little bit more depth later on. It's obviously a lot to do with the quality of standards as well. Now, none of this is going to happen without the final pillar, and that's the ecosystem. The ecosystem score is designed to describe how easily new entrants can access the market, access the services and the tools they need to bring their propositions to market successfully, sandboxes and the like. Now, the UK's early market mover, we prescribed and mandated API standards as pre-existing fintech, because we had this pre-existing fintech ecosystem, and we had a status of being a leader in financial services, and this provided a perfect melting pot to create a global prototype for open banking. So we had this perfect melting pot of what we believe are those four essential pillars: entrepreneurial, consumer, regulatory, and the ecosystem. So for our next index, we will all be watching Argentina, and we expect to see you rise up through those rankings because you haven't even launched open banking in real terms. So the key question here is, can you be leading the way in LATAM? So to return back to my question analogy, can you win the race? So let's actually have a look at the next slide. Now, as I said at the top of our time together, alongside the index, we commissioned these very cool infographics. Please do download them and have a play. And they really make the data come alive. And we hear from the one that we downloaded for you today was the impact of the government stance. And we've divided them into four categories again. So leaders, they're mature, established ecosystems, which are now starting to slow down. And the UK is a prime example of this one. Movers, now these are moving quickly and tend to be focused on specific and low number of use cases and have a lower consumer score. And planners, these tend to be early stage ecosystems, some of which have fallen into the gaps between regulatory and market activity. And the watchers, markets that are looking outwards and to see what is happening. And if you can have a look, we've put a star around Argentina, as we believe that you are in this category. Please do download it. And there's 8 or 9 infographics, and you'll have a lot of fun, I can absolutely promise you. So if we have a look at the next slide, and here we get into lending. We were asked to talk a lot about the lending category. And I'll give you a moment just to read what it says on the slide. But regulation provides fintechs with more innovation because you have more space. And that's how and this was a key finding of the index, is that the more space that fintechs can have, but within a framework, within boundaries, and that's what regulations give them, fintechs can play. And if you just have a look at some of these numbers, 65 markets with lending as their top use case. So when the brief was given to me that lending was likely to be the leading use case in Argentina, I really got it, because I could I'd already seen the data from the index. Now, more mature ecosystems had broader use cases, with lending always at the front. So by looking at the index, learning what those established markets are doing, you can actually put yourself in a prime position. Now, one key finding was also that our analysis found that PFMs, personal financial management, that's a use case that you need in a big market with lots of people that have complex financial lives. Hence, it works well in the UK and it works well in the States. Elsewhere in the world, after that initial flush of, or the honeymoon period, if you want to call it that, of PFM providers, it tended to die off a little. It's after that period where everybody wanted to get the great deals in lending after consenting to share their data to avoid the form filling and the access to credit. So as you can see here, 48% of the market had PFMs, but by far the leading use case was lending. So you certainly called it out right with wanting to focus on lending. Now, if you move on to the next slide, this is a slide I absolutely love. And I always call this slide my love your regulator. Now here, so love your regulator. So here, excuse me, the results dispel many of the industry myths that I've heard over the years, such as it doesn't really matter whether you're regulatory driven or market driven, the results are just the same. Well, that isn't what the data says. Please have a look at that slide. Clearly, it says that 63.3%, it's the leading percentage on that slide rule here. And we were quite surprised by the gap between supported and mandated. Clearly winning by a lot of furlongs, going back to my racing analogy. So we found that a regulatory driven approach enables markets to get further and faster. Regulation drives ecosystems to develop faster. That's what we were saying before. It gives you a framework, a space, boundaries for which the fintechs can do what fintechs do so well, and that's innovate. So ecosystems will develop faster. They will have a broader spread of use cases that, and those use cases will be far more complex. And there's also more competition for capital. So that's just market forces coming into play. Now, in the market-driven ecosystems, that's actually skewed towards lower consumer scores and have a smaller spread of use cases, though in some cases the use cases were widely adopted, such in the US, and that's really where the size of the US slightly skewed the data there. So huge difference, and it's hardly surprising that in a market that was neutral, it was a little wishy-washy. So it really is love your regulator. In a regulated environment, you will get further and faster. So that is the key takeaway. Now, if we move on to the next slide. Okay. let's start to have a look in a little more depth at some of the use cases that will impact, as it says here, on your economy, your society, and your environment, and also your government too. Now, we've talked about lending being one of the main use cases in Argentina, and that's all about putting the customer first. And there is no better fintech in the UK to introduce you to than MoneyHub, and for Sam Seaton, their CEO, to talk to you about putting the customer at the heart of everything that they do. In the UK, we have a new legislation. It's called Consumer Duty. Many would say this is common sense, good business practice, but it is all about putting the customer at the heart of what you do. So there is nobody better to introduce you to, and please listen to what Sam has to say. Sam, over to you.
The Consumer Duty gives firms an opportunity to reinvent their relationships with their customers. But the FCA has stressed the need for evidence-based outcomes using customer information beyond the walls of firms' current datasets. Consumer Duty exposes inadequate information architectures that are based on products and processes rather than customers, and CRM systems with historic and patchy data. This is what makes it hard for firms to detect, intervene, and report on customer outcomes. MoneyHub is a Consumer Duty compliant by design, a multi-award-winning open data platform solution that improves customer outcomes through proven capabilities across over 80 enterprise clients. Here's what it can do. A typical product-centric journey moves from application to onboarding through servicing to an exit point. The customer lifecycle may be triggered by a life event, non-financial goals, or a career change. Affordability, eligibility, suitability, and vulnerability would change dynamically over time, but firms lack the data analytical frameworks and insight to monitor and correct outcomes along the way. Actionable insights from the MoneyHub Open Data Technology Platform enable operational support and customer engagement at the right time, in context and in a personalized way. This transforms the customer experience and means that organizations proactively detect when a change in circumstance or behavior could impact an outcome. A financial MOT of sorts, 24/7 hours a day. MoneyHub filters data through the platform into a consumer-consented data lake. This aggregates customer experiences and provides strategic insight to inform product development, pricing, share of wallet, communications, and operational improvement. This soon becomes a source of competitive advantage. The ability to detect and map transactional data and affordability and suitability metrics becomes evident and easier when done through the customer lens. The MoneyHub Affordability Dashboard analyzes the customer's full financial situation with contextual data and pattern detection, leading to suitable loan and investment or savings products. Transaction data assesses cash flow, and then a more detailed analysis of risk factors such as gambling, missed direct debits, or third-party loans and borrowing supports a much richer, real-time assessment of affordability. Open finance data adds assets and liabilities to create a balance sheet and total net worth view. This can be one time only at application or for a financial wellbeing proposition that automatically monitors ongoing suitability. Engagement with customers once they are using a product can now become a point of differentiation. Behavioral insights add context for products that are unsuitable, while personalized smart nudges encourage an alternative action. Here, 18% of overdrafts were detected as being used for long and repeated periods, creating a new intervention and a more suitable set of outcomes, preventing unnecessary fees and increasing the likelihood of satisfaction. This customer lens, informed by business rules, enables appropriate, personalized interventions, leading to greater engagement that drives an increased likelihood of recommended actions being followed. Evidencing outcomes across the customer journey is provided for within the MoneyHub Consumer Duty dashboards. These can be tailored by client and by use case and provide out-of-the-box reporting tools for compliance teams. MoneyHub's open data platform transforms the customer experience, enabling firms to detect, intervene, and report their compliance with consumer duty throughout the customer journey. Turning data into actionable insights that improve outcomes, boost customer value, and delivers a compliance dividend. It's a unique platform, delivering a win-win for customers and for firms.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, MoneyHub. Now, if we look at some more use cases, a customer centric approach throughout the process is absolutely key here. Use cases should drive regulation and which should drive mandated standards. So if you think about starting with the use cases, and that should inform the regulation. Now, we work with many regulators around the world, and generally they will start with 30 to 40 use cases and then distill it down to 10 and write the rest onto their roadmap. And here are just a few examples. I could spend all day talking about each of them. And I just want to encourage you to spend time looking at these use cases. And I'm happy to share more information about any or all of them. But for now, my key message is to start with a use case. And as Sam was saying, to start with your customer. That just makes sense. But some big use cases around consent management, about identity, that's absolutely huge. We did a campfire, which you can see on our website, about digital identity and some of the use cases that is driving. If you think about it, identity is just it's another data attribute that you're sharing securely with consent, which is a whole premise of open banking. And that got 45,000 views when we put it on YouTube. So tax and accountancy, we're going to have a look at. Debt management is absolutely key. So these at the top part of the slide are for small businesses. So accountancy and tax, cash flow, consent management, so debt management, e-commerce, e-payments at the checkout, identification, verification, which I just touched on, SME financial management, loans and alternative lending, which we're going to be talking a lot about it in a moment. And for consumers, you can read them there. Charity and open banking payments is a leading one in the UK. Credit file enhancement, well, that really works with lending, as you're about to hear. Loans, again, is part of lending. PFM, personal management, financial management, mortgages, that gets more into the open finance side. So a huge plethora of use cases to start with. And just to summarize, is I would really urge you, as you start your journey into open banking, open finance, it's the strategic prioritization is absolutely paramount to adoption. It's all about keeping the user front of mind and having a very use case centric approach to what you do. Okay, if we move on to the next slide, and you may have heard me say this before, I believe this is the best use case in the UK, and therefore I would argue the world. With credit card companies coming in behind, paying off your credit card from your debit account using an open banking payment has colossal use case, has colossal volume. It is a colossal use case too. So let me talk to you about open banking at HMRC. Let's have a little look at the history. In 2020, HMRC became the first public sector organisation anywhere on the planet to issue a tender for open banking services, which was awarded to what was then a startup called EcoSpend and has been since been acquired by Trustly. So every entrepreneur's dream. Now, that in itself tells a story, doesn't it? Now, on the 24th of March 2021, the very first pay by bank account tax payment was made, a milestone. Now, at the beginning of 2023, HMRC announced that it had processed over 4.5 million worth of tax payments, which was roughly worth 12 billion, that's with a B, 12 billion pounds. It's a colossal amount. And just think of what efficiency that is putting into the government, because it's account to account payment. Nothing goes into suspense, so everything reconciles. That is absolutely efficient. It gives the UK government a huge amount of huge amount of cost savings from that tax collection, and that money can go back into the government coffers and help with further improvements in our economy and our society. And there is no reason why that can't happen in Argentina. Now, I'm advising HMRC on their future strategy for use cases, and I believe this is a massive step change with what we're going to be announcing for the UK ecosystem. We're going to be taking our API or APIs across more tax types, driving yet further efficiencies in the market. Now, we would love to support and advise your government with this type of use case that drives open banking transactional volume into the market. So it's absolutely kickstarting the market. It's putting that volume into the ecosystem, and it's also encouraging a new form of buyer behavior habits. It's all about encouraging that change. It really is. So I would encourage you to look at HMRC as the best use case in the world. And when you do download our index, you can actually read around HMRC. And there's a fabulous interview that was done with Nick Down, who is the head of payments at HMRC. So if we move on to the next slide, lending. Now, lending is a use case that can drive significant social benefits. It requires close collaboration between fintechs and banks. And it really is the open banking, open finance system, ecosystem. Key at the heart of it is collaboration. And in this use case, lending, it's where you get the very best of fintechs and banks working together, that David and Goliath model, with banks, the larger institutions, benefiting from the agile approach of smaller, more nimbler partners. It truly is collaboration, each playing to the best. Banks are trusted. It's where we all want to keep our money and keep it safe, and rightly have a very high level of governance. Fintechs that are a different size and can move at a different pace and are far more freer to innovate. At OBE, we've done a great deal of work with TTPs and banks, the aim being for banks to have more confidence to put more structured debt onto the balance sheet of TTPs so they can lend more. And this requires banks to understand risk models, and it also requires TTPs to understand what drives the bank's appetite for risk. It truly is open banking at its best, because the lending use case allows real-time decision making, and you're assessing somebody's ability to pay now and in the future, and it's not based on historical data. It's the ability to service that debt, and importantly, to mitigate against any future risk of default. Now, who better to talk about the lending ecosystem than some of the UK? Now, for a lending use case to really thrive, it does require an ecosystem. So, as I said at the top of our time together, at OBE, we believe when you get great people together, amazing things will happen. So let's hear from some of the best in the UK from across the lending ecosystem. We've invited TSB, an innovative bank, ClearScore, an amazing fintech that categorizes data, to support underwriters. Plaid, leading fintech that makes it easy for users to connect. And Kate from Yodely, who's just returned from Argentina, and she'll share more about the access to data and the ability to access that data. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Team UK.
Hey, I'm Amber and I lead operations here at Data One in the UK, and I'd love to share more on what we're doing to drive open banking here. So Data One was set up by the ClearScore Group, and if you're not too familiar with ClearScore, it's a free credit score and report app here in the UK and has over 14 million connected users. And so for a long time, ClearScore has been trying hard to push the agenda for open banking, and Data One has been powering the connectivity and the access. But that's not only on ClearScore, this is for lenders across the UK, and this is because we want to help lenders tap into the benefits of open banking and use this data in their lending decisions. And at Data One, we've been focused on cutting through the noise to provide reliable products, APIs, and transaction insights. And these insights are on customer income and expenditure and risks. And this has enabled lenders to get a complete view of their customer finances when making decisions. And one of the great benefits that I've seen is this has meant customers across the UK who have previously not had access to credit have been able to connect their bank accounts and gain access to credit for the first time as a result. So there's really a lot of power in this data. And as you may have already gathered, the typical lending use cases we often come across is in originations, when a lender wants to use open banking data as part of their customer applications. And this can be on their direct channels or through credit marketplaces like ClearScore or other introducers. But there's other use cases as well. So account verification, or later on in the customer life cycle for credit line increases or proactive customer management. It doesn't just have to be limited to the applications only. And so if I could offer anyone advice who might be looking to dive into this sector, I would say make it really easy for customers to understand the benefits of connecting their bank accounts. And I say this because it's going to enable all the really good stuff after, like the lending decisions and delivering those positive outcomes for the customers and the lenders. So I wish you the best, and I hope to hear about your developments soon.
Hello, I'm Adam Betheridge from TSB Bank. We're a challenger bank serving 5 million customers based in the United Kingdom. We currently have 165 third parties connecting to our APIs through open banking, and we work directly with these third parties to ensure they can offer the best services to our customers. But we also take a lot of learnings and build that into our strategy from these third parties too. They're able to test and learn with new services in the industry quicker than we are, and often have a wider view and data set than what we can see. So I set up monthly and quarterly meetings with some of the larger third parties that allows me to shape our open banking products and services. For instance, we've been talking to a number of third parties about lending recently and how we can use open banking data to better understand our customers and have a full 360 view of our customers' finances, allowing them to make better, more informed lending decisions. Lending is a key focus for us to help maximize our balance sheet and drive revenue for the organization. So we're keen to make sure that we'll make the right decision for ourselves and for our customers too. We can use open banking to deliver a full view of that customer, which not only allows us to approve more lending, so potentially Mr. Customer might not have been approved by us before, but also we can look at it on the other side. So where we might have approved a customer in the past, we can look at it and actually think, having a wider view, we might not have approved it. So they might have defaulted on that payment, but where we could wider understand what that customer was doing, we can look at it and say, this isn't suitable for you, Mr. Customer. This is something we need to really consider how we offer you this repayment plan. So that's where it can have benefits from not only approving more lending, but also where we review lending what we've previously approved and make sure it doesn't default in the future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kat Cloud. I'm the Principal Director of Open Banking at Envestnet Yodely. Envestnet Yodely is a global open banking provider with over 20 years of experience. Our role in open banking is best described as providing the plumbing that allows for the safe, secure data between banks, fintechs, and consumers. We provide a global data ecosystem that is verifiable, secure, and valuable to every decision made by our clients and their customers. We are regulated in the US, UK, Australia, and India. Specifically looking at lending, one of the key use cases in an open banking framework is the ability to offer more expansive credit underwriting. By utilizing customer permissioned cash flow underwriting, lenders can expand access to a broader set of applicants who may not qualify for credit using their traditional credit report alone. This approach will enable smaller banks to extend credit to underserved segments of the population, promoting financial inclusion, expanding access to affordable credit, and empowering individuals to live an intelligent financial life. We are excited to offer this product to a range of consumers around the world. Having the ability to access credit is a key requirement for anyone looking to build their financial portfolio. Open banking holds tremendous potential for countries no matter where they are in the world. By leveraging open banking, institutions will level the playing field, offer more expansive credit underwriting, facilitate efficient cash flow management for small businesses, and provide consumers with a view of their financial position. Our one piece of advice would be to engage industry early on and continuously to best understand where the market is today and what needs to be done first to encourage adoption of open banking. No matter what technology is used to power open banking, for example, APIs, industry will need time and clear guidelines on how best to prepare and ensure they participate in open banking. Look forward to seeing how Argentina develops open banking. Thank you.
Plaid is one of the largest open finance platforms, powering a payments and data network millions of people rely on to live a healthier financial life. Plaid's network covers more than 12,000 financial institutions across the US, Canada, UK, and 16 markets in Europe, working with thousands of companies like Venmo, SoFi, and Sage, and many of the largest banks to make it easy for people to connect their financial accounts to apps and services they want to use. We play a critical role in the UK open banking ecosystem, providing a reliable, secure, and scaled platform for partners looking to utilize banking data and take advantage of real-time payments. On top of this, we're a vocal supporter of progressive policy work, playing a key role with bodies such as the UK's Joint Regulatory Oversight Committee, JROC, and sitting on the Variable Recurring Payments Working Group. Now, one of the largest group of customers we have leveraging our extensive data network is lenders. Plaid helps lenders across the customer lifecycle, from identity and verification to underwriting solutions such as income verification, affordability, and risk insights, through to loan servicing with payment products such as repayments and payouts to customers. Ultimately, this helps provide a comprehensive picture of a borrower with real-time data, enabling greater access to credit and more accurate decisioning and improved understanding of overall user financial health. We support a wide range of lenders across B2B, B2C use cases. For B2C, we power lenders who help to finance businesses from SMEs through to medium and large-sized businesses with offerings such as revenue-based finance, working with companies such as Capital on Tap and YouLend. For B2C, we operate across a wide variety of personal lending use cases, including auto finance, credit cards, personal loans, and mortgages, including some interesting use cases around prop tech, helping people when they're looking to rent, and supporting the likes of SoFi, ClearPay, and Plend. Now, one piece of advice we'd like to share with an ecosystem looking to focus on lending is to establish really clear standards on how lenders can and are expected to use open banking data in their decisioning process. This is critical to remove any doubts and encourage usage of the data as a de facto data source when decisioning. There is no doubt about the power of the data, but some lenders struggle to integrate new data sources into their decisioning models. So these clear standards on how they should leverage the data are important, whilst ensuring that the data received from banks also follows very, very clear standards so that there are no inconsistencies between what's received by the banks. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Team UK. Now that really is what an ecosystem collaboration look like. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce you to some of your new friends and to show you how collaboration can truly work. So what can Argentina learn from the UK? Well, I'm hoping that Team UK has just answered that for you. So some more of the lessons that you can learn and I would like to share would be to legislate, to get started, to go deep, not wide, and with JROC, which is the Joint Regulatory Oversight Committee, we're now getting that depth. So you can you can learn from us, and you can learn from what JRock is doing, and you can always keep abreast of what's happening in the ecosystem by tuning into our campfires, downloading them from our website, reading our blogs that are created by the community for the community. It's all about that ecosystem engagement. And without engagement, you'll have missed the opportunity to build an innovative ecosystem that drives financial inclusion for a fairer society and supports the growth of your economy. So I would urge you to think about your unbanked and your underbanked. That's a crucial market segment. Without ecosystem engagement, the result is that you'll have the best technical infrastructure, but very low volume. You're going to have the best kept secret in the world. And we've seen regulators around the world build something very intellectual and technically even absolutely magnificent, but nobody knows about it and it's not used because they've got very, very low engagement. Now, the risk and liability models should also be a priority. And for anybody that's worked in the card schemes, which I ran and built a card issuing bank, you'll know all around the risk and liability model as well as dispute management. And that is required to give your customer protection. Absolutely key. That is required. And if we look at this, it has to be a customer-centric approach for risk and liability frameworks. It has to be protection there for the customer. In the UK, we had something called, or we still have something called, Strong Customer Authentication, SCA, which required initially checks every 90 days to affirm consent to the service providers. So if you just think about this, and this could be a key lesson for you to learn in Argentina. The fintechs have worked hard to encourage new users to adopt a new payment method, and they spent all the time and energy on securing these new users, and they'd worked hard to change those buyer behavior habits. And then you were asked to authenticate, to reauth every 90 days. Well, you can imagine that the users will just fall off a cliff. You know, just when people are getting into the swing of a new habit, you're asking them to restart the process again. Now, friction in a process is good for fraud prevention, but it's not good here for seamless customer journey. So that is one key lesson, and I hope you like my emoji there, that you can learn from the UK. Another one would be standards and performance governance. This requires a decentralized directory that is agile and cost effective. Now, in the UK, the Open Banking Implementation Entity, OBIE, was in charge of delivering all of the APIs, the data structures, and the security architecture of open banking. Now, the approach to standards and performance governance doesn't require a heavy infrastructure like the one we had in the UK. We were the first in the world, and that's not required now. OBE can advise and can support you with your regulatory and your operational frameworks. We have a team of consultants that have worked on the initial build in the UK, and they are advising regulators around the world. And what we would urge you is, as this final point says, is to clearly define, comes back to the use case, clearly define your roadmap for use cases. And don't forget those halo effect use cases, so you can all shine. Think about lending and think about HMRC. So those would be just a few of the lessons learned from the UK. But I would invite you to reflect on your 5 new friends from the UK, and the fact they all wanted to share what they've also learned. That in itself is the essence of what open banking collaboration is all about. So here on our slide here, how can we collaborate? What are our next steps to for OBE to engage with you all? Well, I always say that nobody is born knowing about open banking. Everybody has a day one. So I would encourage you and your team to use us as a knowledge resource, to follow us on LinkedIn, engage with us on LinkedIn, register for our newsletter. So every month you can be abreast of what is happening around the world in the exciting world of open banking and open finance, and to go to our website, to download our campfires, to get immersed in our blogs. And on the third Thursday of every month in the UK, we have our campfire. And that is now seen by tens and tens of thousands of people from around 40 different countries in the world. And as I've said before, I would encourage you to download our index and have a play with our infographics. Get yourself a coffee or something stronger and really have a play, and the data will come alive, and that should help inform and shape your thinking for what you do for your own businesses and what your regulator does and what you do as an ecosystem. And we would love to support you in any way we can, whether that be advising your regulator, advising your boards, or shining a light on what you do and sharing it with the rest of our global community. Now, I said at the beginning that you could do well by doing good. And hopefully I have shown you that with a help from your new friends from the UK, Team UK. I said that my mission was to inform and inspire you, and I truly hope I've met the brief. Your mission, and I did say you'd get one, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is if everyone here today in the audience, and thank you for your time, if everybody here today mentors just 2 talented, vibrant, young females, together we will change the face of our ecosystem, and that will inform the product development for products that are more diverse in the marketplace. That in turn informs more market engagement and a thriving ecosystem. It's self-perpetuating. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to mentor 2 very talented, vibrant, young females. At OBE, unsurprisingly, we have a program that is called Pass the Mic to a Woman. And please do get involved with it. My last slide. Muchas gracias. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about a topic that I am very, very passionate about, and I believe, when delivered correctly, can be game-changing for your economy, your society, the environment. And with HMRC, the best use case in the world, it can drive efficiencies for your government too. It has been my pleasure to introduce you to some of Team UK, and thank you for your time, the most precious gift that you can give. I truly do hope that we all have informed and inspired you. And above and beyond anything else, I hope to see you in person very, very soon in Buenos Aires. Bye for now.